Hello, I'm Derek McGregor and welcome to One on One. Today I'm at the magnificent Close House Golf Club in Northumberland. Now, unfortunately, I've not had a round of golf, but what I have had is a brilliant chat with born and bred Geordie and Scotland right-hand man, John Carver. Take some time out and enjoy it. You won't be disappointed. John, I like to think that I come from God's own country, but we're in sensational Northumberland. I take it you would dispute my theory.
Oh, absolutely! It's out of this world. I have to say, it's the place to be. It's the place to live, and I absolutely love it here. Although I've been around the world a few times, this is certainly my favourite spot, and especially here at Close House on a golf course, which is where I like to be if it's not a football stadium. And you know, as you can see from the views and the standard of the course, it's magnificent. So if anybody gets the opportunity and they're in the northeast, I'd advise them to come and play this wonderful place.
So we're 15 miles outside of Newcastle. We're Close House Golf Club. It is pretty special, isn't it? I mean, it's magnificent.
I mean, when you look at the views, you know, we've got the River Tyne going all the way into the city, and it's parallel with the famous Scotswood Road, which is where I'm from and was born on the Scotswood Road, which leads into the city where you have the cathedral on the hill, which is St James's Park, which is a place that's really close to my heart.
Now, you are a proper bona fide 100% Geordie.
Well, they say that, yeah. They say if you're born on the banks of the Tyne, you're a Geordie. Now, I'm not sure how true that is, but in my eyes, I'll accept that. And I was within 100 yards of the famous Scotswood Road, and that's where I was brought up, in the West End of Newcastle, in a council flat. So it never leaves me. It's always with me, and I never forget where I come from.
I've got to ask you, I mean, how often would you sing the Bladen races on an average?
I think I've lost count. I think I've lost count of how many times I've sung it. But it's a famous tune, certainly with the Newcastle supporters. But everybody who's based in the northeast, if you're a Geordie, you know the words to it, and I certainly do.
I mean, I look around this place, John, and I take it the minute you start striding about the fairways, all the kind of strains, stresses, all the hassles of the world, do they just disappear?
Most of the time I'm in the rough. Let me just tell you that.
Then they come back?
Then they come back, yeah. And sometimes when I go into the trees as well, I go in with a white ball and come out with a yellow one. But no, yeah, it's a place that you could come. I mean, when I was in charge in Newcastle that time, when I was interim manager, I would come here on a Sunday after the game on a Saturday with the staff. We'd have a game of golf, and then the families would come. And we'd have a proper, what we called a Super Sunday. You know, we'd relax, have a few beers. And in fairness, we have so many people who come here who are involved with sport or entertainment, TV, and nobody bothers them. So it's a great place to come and enjoy yourself with your families. It's not, you know, it's a really relaxing place. You know, anybody can come, anybody's welcome to come, and they're accepted when they go into the bar area, the 19th hole. But it's a great place to relax and switch off before you start your week again on the Monday, because the one thing you find is, especially in the northeast of England, it's intense. Football is intense as it is up in Scotland. I've been up there this weekend for the semi-finals, and it's intense. So it's exactly the same here, and you get very little time to switch off. But this is one place you can actually switch off and enjoy it, and nobody bothers you about football. And in fairness, actually, I'm quite surprised how many Scottish people actually play golf here, because every time I come and play, somebody comes to talk to me about the national team. And it's all good, by the way.
All good?
All good.
Really?
Apart from Germany.
Well, I mean, when you walk in the reception, magnificent golf course, you walk in the reception and you look at either side of the wall and the portraits, you know, the A-list of actors and celebrities, sports people. I'm going to give you your immediate cue to name drop. Go on, John. Tell me, listen, who plays here, who's been here.
Well, first of all, our professional is Lee Westwood. So what better way to start the
Ryder Cup legend?
Absolutely. And when they won the Ryder Cup, he brought it to Close House, and I actually got a picture taken with it. So I felt really honoured to have that Ryder Cup in my hands. But we have Alan Shearer here, who's obviously plays with my group of lads, you know, the society that we play in. Steve Stone comes here. We've had Ant and Deck here. I mean, the list can go on and on and on. And I'm not one for dropping names, but there are a lot of footballers from Newcastle, Sunderland, Middlesbrough. Lee Cattermole used to come when he was at Sunderland. So it's not just about the Newcastle people, it's about people from the Northeast. And I mean, Graham Wiley, who's the owner of Close House, is very, very friendly with a lot of, like, Jeremy Kyle. And I mean, there's so many of them, honestly. Yeah. And, you know, and when they come here, they don't get any hassle. They can enjoy themselves. They can have a game of golf. They can have some food. And it's such a relaxing place. But there are some A-listers there, and I'm not one of them.
I've got to ask you, Ant and Deck, did they ever ask you about the Scotland national team, John? Did they ever give you any
No,
stick?
they give me a little bit.
Yeah.
They give me a little bit. But
I hope you defend Scotland.
Yeah, well, of course I do. Come on. But you know what they're like. They're big Newcastle United fans. And Deck actually was born in the same estate as me. So his mum and dad were good friends with my mum. They went to the same church and what have you together. And obviously my mum and dad passed away and his dad passed away, and they're actually next to each other in the cemetery, you know. So every now and again I see his mum, but he's here, he loves it here, he loves his golf. He's not been here so many times lately because he's been very busy, and I think he'll be busy coming up in the jungle. I think the jungle's starting pretty soon. But no.
Have they given you an invite to the jungle?
No, you won't get me in the jungle. One, I'm scared of spiders. I don't like confined spaces, and I'm scared of heights. So you got no chance of getting me in the jungle.
But it is the perfect place to get away from it all, isn't it? And, you know, in the one-on-one series, I asked managers and coaches, what do they do to get away from it all? And obviously golf's a massive passion for you.
Yeah, because I live sort of 500 metres away from here now, as well as the golf, I can get out with a dog and I just come and walk about and, you know, spend time on my own. Maybe an hour walking around the golf course, just thinking about, you know, obviously we've got a squad coming up, to name a squad coming up. I think Steve names it soon, and we've got the games coming up soon. So you start thinking about your preparation for the next camp, and it's a nice place to walk around, especially when the sun's shining. You know,
I know Steve obviously loves his golf. Do you ever bring Steve here?
Yeah, we've been here. We had a staff event here. We have an England-Scotland.
Oh, right.
And let me just say, England are leading at the moment.
Okay.
So
fiercely competitive?
Very, very. As you can imagine, we actually fell out. Me and Graeme Jones had a little bit of an argument on the last one.
Okay.
Because I thought he'd moved the ball, and he said he didn't. So
hang on a second. There was an accusation of cheating here, was there?
I'm not saying that, but yes.
And how did this resolve itself?
Well, we won, so it didn't make any difference in the end. We actually took a lead in the series, so I was quite happy with that.
This is a bone of contention here, John, because you work for Scotland now, but you're making reference to we. Yeah, as in England beat Scotland.
Yeah, when it comes to golf, I'm English.
Controversial here.
when it comes to golf, I'm English. When it comes to football, I'm Scottish.
Okay, right. Okay, I think we might just about let you away with that one.
Okay,
but
thanks.
But no, that's a good idea. Once you get on the tee, there's an edge.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
We're competitive people, and that's what we're like, you know. The thing that worries me about Steve is he never says he has a handicap. He just makes it up. So we have to go with it. So
he makes it up.
Yeah, because he doesn't have
strong accusations going about here, John.
Well, I'm just telling the truth.
I mean, there could be a split in the Scotland camp coming up with this one.
Yeah, well, there could be. We've already had a few disagreements about handicaps.
Steve, if you need the right for reply, you'll have it. Don't worry about that. But
well, no, he because he's not a member anyway, because he doesn't play as much as I do. I'll be honest, and he doesn't have an official handicap, but he's about level with me, and we try and base his handicap on what my handicap is at the time. But I keep saying to him, you need to go and get an official handicap.
Okay. So I can imagine the conversations that you two have are fascinating. Fascinating. More heated in the golf than when you're picking a squad?
Very much
deliberating over a squad?
Yeah, very much so.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a different drive when it comes to golf.
Now, if you forgive me for using golf parlance, have you ever felt out of bounds in your Scotland role?
I felt, when I first went into the role, it was strange. You can imagine being an Englishman coming into the Scottish environment. But very, very quickly, I felt welcomed by everybody. The staff were amazing. The players were fantastic. But the people were even better, you know, because you just never know. And I went to watching one or two games, and people were a little bit reluctant to want to come and say hello and have a conversation. Yeah, for sure. Yeah. But now I've been welcomed with open arms, and I like that.
Did you understand that? Yeah. You weren't disappointed. You could understand the scepticism, maybe.
Yeah. I didn't understand the feeling between the Scottish people and the English people. I didn't understand that. I didn't quite get that. And there is a little bit of animosity, let's just say, between the two countries. But I didn't quite understand that. But I get it now. And sometimes when I listen to pundits talking about England and talking about Scotland, I can understand why. Because I think, the English people think that they deserve the right to be successful and win things and do this and that. Where when you're in Scotland, people are quite humble. I see them as humble people, and they're quite happy to, as long as they see progress, that's a step forward. So when I listen to them, and I listen to the guys on the when they were talking in the Euros and different things, I got a little bit annoyed when the way they spoke about Scotland and weren't critical of England. Yeah, England weren't great in the Euros, for example, especially the early performances. They got a lot of luck in. And a lot of things went their way.
Funny, we felt the same way a long time.
Well, that's where I'm coming from, really. And
that actually underlines how Scotland's got to you now. You feel.
Yeah.
You really feel it.
Hey, listen, I'm on the border, aren't I? Let's face it. This is.
Well, I mean, Northumberland, magnificent, and we're not that far away from Hadrian's Wall. In all honesty,
we're on the wall. We're actually on the wall.
We're on the wall.
Yeah. Behind the golf course.
In all honesty, would you have ever imagined the day would come when you would be the other side of the wall?
Absolutely not. No.
Working for Scotland?
No, never. Because I didn't really have any real connections other than Steve. Because obviously that goes back to when he joined Newcastle in '99 with Ruud Gullit, and we become friends, we become working colleagues. But Steve was working down south most of his career, and then he went to Killie before he took the national team. So I never thought I would be working for Scotland. I was always hoping that I could get a job for England, because that's where you think, you're working at club level, can you get the opportunity, and obviously we were working with Sir Bobby Robson, and him being the England manager once upon a time, he told me so many good things about being the England manager and what it would mean and feel. And I would have loved to have been involved with that, but when it came around and Steve asked me, I couldn't get in the car quick enough and drive up that motorway.
I was going to say, John, that so when Steve Clarke becomes Scotland manager, even then, did you ever imagine there might be a phone call one day?
Well, we had a conversation about a couple of situations before that. He almost, I think he was in line to get the Burnley job, and he called me and asked me if I would go with him, and then all of a sudden, out of the blue, he got offered the job at Liverpool with Kenny. So I was on my way to Burnley with him. Then I get a call later in the week saying he's going to Liverpool, and I was like, what am I going to do now? So there was a hint that he would like me to work with him at some stage. And it was at the time when I was out of work, I think. Because over my career, I've not really had that many days and months out of work, which is, I consider myself really fortunate. But when he asked me then, I thought, well, maybe he's in the future. And I think when he got I know when he got the Kilmarnock job, he wanted me to go with him. But it's a long story, and we ain't got enough time to talk about that. But so I knew he was interested in me working with him.
So when he did actually call you to ask him to be his right-hand man for Scotland, what was your initial reaction? Well,
it actually, he called me before that, because I think he'd just appointed Alex Dyer, I'd just gone with him. Yeah. And I was out of work, so he asked me if I would do a report on Norway, Serbia and Israel, because that was the three teams that they could play in the playoffs. So I had nothing else to do, so I just sat in my own time and I watched 36 games, full games. So I watched 12 of each team and did a match report on each team for him, just in case,
Cover all bases.
Yeah, but because of COVID, the time got extended, so the game got cancelled. And then all of a sudden, Alex got the job at Killie. He left, and then he asked me to go up there. So he actually asked me, I was doing some work for him voluntary before he actually asked me to join him. When he asked me, I was like, what an honour, to work for a national team, because when you look at my career, I've worked in the Premier League, I've worked in Championship, I've worked abroad, But this was, again, another string to your bow. Getting the opportunity to go and work with a national team, with the best players in that country against the best players in the world.
Was there any hesitancy, obviously the old England-Scotland kind of edge or rivalry?
None
that just didn't come into
none
it at
whatsoever.
All you could see was a great job. And
none whatsoever.
Yeah.
I think there's only one football club in the world that I couldn't work for, and that's Sunderland. I'll be honest. And that's Sunderland. So somebody offered me a job at Sunderland. Because of my ties with Newcastle and my love for Newcastle, that's one place I couldn't go. But when Steve come to me and asked me to go to Scotland, not a problem. Because I'm a professional, I want to do the best. And whoever I'm working for, I went to Leeds, I've been at Sheffield United, Plymouth. I want to do the best job for the people who I'm working for. And so there was no hesitation.
It's just over 4 years now, John, isn't it?
Yeah, it was 4 years in September, yeah.
It feels as if it's flown past.
It certainly has. It certainly has. But the problem you've got with international football is you only work for 5 camps. So you do 5 10-day camps in a year. Yeah. And that's the bit inside that I miss. I miss the day-to-day stuff, being on the grass every day, because the adrenaline rush you get from those 10 days working with the players that we've got is amazing. It's like you go on this massive high, you come to the end of it, and you like to think your performances are getting better, your results will get better, and then you do nothing. So like after this camp coming up, we've got nothing till March other than watching games. And it's not easy from a psychological point of view. You know, it gets dark at 4 o'clock. It's dark when you wake up. Well, I have a lie-in the mornings. It's dark when you get up. It's dark at 4 o'clock. It's not the nicest place to be.
That is the frustration, and obviously, you know, recently it's been a very difficult run of results. And of course, in club football, you very quickly get a chance to maybe atone for a bad result. But more often than not, in international football, you've got months to wait.
Absolutely.
That must be really hard to...
But you know what? You know what? You take each campaign as it is on its merits. And since the start of the Nations League, I feel like we've made progress, certainly from the summer, because obviously the disappointment of the summer, and I think I explained the last time, from a personal point of view, probably one of the most disappointing times I've had in football. Yeah, listen.
Germany really affected you, John, didn't it?
Very much so, because...
as it would have Steve and everyone else, of course.
It disappointed everybody, because the expectation and how far we'd gone in that space of time, the progress we'd made was, and when we got there, it was like, why has this happened? Why has it happened? Why did we not perform? Why did we get overrun? Why did we? And there was lots of questions. So you question yourself. I was questioning myself.
Have you still not got over it, really, deep down?
I think I have now. I think time's a great healer, as we talk about. But I think the reason why I've gotten over it is because I see the progress we've made since Germany. Yeah. Now people might say, well, hang on a minute, our results haven't been great, but our performances, and I'm a big believer in it, if your performances are better and you see improvement and I think you can see an identity in the team and the way we're trying to change the way we've gone from, and sometimes it's because of the system, not so much a more defensive team, but we're now more on the front foot. We're now trying to give teams a problem. And I see that progress, and I see it, and bearing in mind the amount of time we have with the players is minute, and especially in the last camp with the amount of people we had missing. But the key messages are being taken on board, and I think there was a stat came out recently about the top 5 of the top sides in the world. We've played them recently. You know, you look at England, you look at Spain, you look at Holland, you look at France, you look at Germany, all in and Portugal. I forgot about Portugal. They're all around about the top 10 of the world in the rankings. Yeah. And we've played like Spain twice, Portugal twice, and actually put in good performances. And obviously leaving the camp with a result, although it was a draw, but a good performance, a good solid performance. I think everyone was so happy because you know what was staring everyone in the face was this idea of a 5th consecutive defeat, which I don't think Scotland's ever suffered before. So even just being able to put that aside was huge. But the performance on the night, John,
You know, we had Cristiano Ronaldo resorting to toys out the pram. I think we all love watching that.
He stormed past me at full time, and I just thought, you know what, this guy's one of the best players, has been one of the best players in the world. You don't behave like that. Remember, Rodri did something similar when we beat Spain. And
post-match comments.
And you'd like to think that, you know, they win enough.
Yeah.
So when they get defeat, they should take it on the chin and accept it. Although Ronaldo didn't lose, he was upset because the referee blew the whistle before the corner was taken. But
I think that was also a measure of how well the team had played as well. That they'd frustrated him defensively, they'd taken care of him. But I think everyone took so much from that game, John.
Absolutely. But if you think back to the game in Lisbon, you know, we take the lead in the game and we're in control of the game.
Yeah.
Obviously, the amount of talent they have, they're going to put us under pressure. And to lose the game so late on, and we still pushed, and we were at 1-1. We were still trying to get the winning goal, and they get the late winner. So for me, that was encouraging for the guys. You know, these guys need a win, right? Yeah. They deserve a win. The performances they've been putting in, they deserve a win. Because let me tell you, they're trying everything, and I think they understand the progress they're making. We do need it, and people say we need a little bit of the rub of the green. Look at the game against Croatia. Look at the game. We played really well against Croatia. Top side. Modric, not involved in the game. And you know, we score that goal late on, and it's a fraction offside. And we think we've gotten a point in Croatia, which would have been amazing.
It's now 25 years since you met Steve.
Years. Do I get something for that?
Does Steve get something from that?
I deserve something for that.
Again, Steve, you can have your right to reply if you want to come back in that one. How would you describe your relationship?
At first it was a massive surprise, because obviously when he came with Ruud Gullit in '99, I was working with the youth team, and as it happens, Alan Irvine was working with the first team, right? Who is obviously with us now. And Ruud came in, and they wanted somebody who understood the club from the area. So me and Alan did a job swap. Alan went down to be the director of the academy, and I went with the first team. So that's how I met Steve. And Steve had just finished playing, so he wasn't really a coach at the time. So when Ruud came in, obviously I was. So I did a lot of the coaching with Ruud, and then we just developed a friendship, and we got on straight away. With different personalities, we've got two different personalities, but I think that's why we got on so well. And contrary to what you think, Steve is actually good fun away from the camera.
Do you see a difference?
Listen,
Do you see a difference when he's doing the media?
Absolutely. Listen, and he'd be the first to admit that. But
do you have a chuckle when you see that?
Yeah, I do. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And we have a laugh about it when he comes. You know, he comes away from it. We're totally different in that sense. But you know, everybody's different. And like, I can tell you, Alan Shearer, when he's on Match of the Day, he does a fantastic job. But again, a great lad. When you sit and have a game of golf with him, you have a social with him, he's like, you know, so you see another side of people.
I think the respect that you and Steve have for each other is clear. You know, the 25 years, you've come through a lot together.
Absolutely.
And you'll know each other inside out.
You know what was really important, Derek? When we were out of work, we kept in touch with each other. Steve knew I was struggling because I was out of work, which is why he gave me that situation when he said, do these match reports on these three teams for me. So I'll never forget that. That'll stay with me, because he knew I was like down and low. And it made a massive difference. And like I say, I'll never forget that, which is why I'll defend him to the hill to anybody. Not that he needs that, because he can stick up for himself, as you well know. But I think it's important that people understand that, and he understands it. He knows that, which is why he wants me with him.
It was obviously a difficult time. Well, I mean, I would say it's a difficult time if you were out of work at that time and you get the call from Steve to work for Scotland. The 4 years you've had working with Scotland, does that kind of galvanise you, rejuvenated you?
Absolutely. I mean, it's amazing, because, as you know, I'm coming up to 60 in January, and it's probably now where I feel as if, you know what, I've worked in the Premier League. I've already talked about the different levels I've worked at. I've worked in a national team level. It's now I feel ready to go on my own, to be a manager. Listen, I'll work with Steve as long as I need to work with Steve, and he knows that. But I still have the drive, the passion, the desire to to want to be my own man, to be a manager, a head coach, whatever it is, whether it's in Scotland.
And Steve will know that.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, he'll respect that.
The one thing about us, we're quite honest and straight.
Yeah.
And we say it as it is, and he understands that, and he gets it completely. So I still have that desire, but it's probably, like I say, probably now I actually feel I'm ready for it, especially after doing the international football, because you never stop learning.
Yeah.
You know, like people say,
that'll have given you a new dynamic as a coach, John.
Absolutely.
Yeah. It's enhanced your experience.
Alan Irvin's just come and joined us, and I love that because he's a top coach, Alan Irvin. And we go back again, I said, to the Newcastle days.
Yeah.
But he tests me all the time, and that's what I want. I don't want to just sit there at 60 and be quite happy and content to be joining up with the national team. And I want to be challenged. I want people to challenge me and say, well, why are you doing this? Why are you doing that?
You're wanting an environment that makes you think and analyse and question yourself.
Correct. Because I think about the game now, Derek, more than I ever have.
Really?
When I watch a game on the television, I might just be watching a League One game. And I'll not be watching it just for the social. I'll be watching it to say, right, okay, how are they playing? Why are they playing like that? If I was the manager of the opposition, how could I break them down?
Do you almost become an anorak? You'll look at details.
Absolutely, that's what I am.
Yeah.
I live and sleep in football because that's what's inside me. That's when I had to finish playing as a 20-year-old, that was like soul destroying, because all I ever did from this age was play football. And then all of a sudden somebody says, I'm sorry, but your career has come to an end because of an injury. What are you going to do? So, which is why I went into coaching. And that gave me the drive to say, well, you know what? I wanted to be a player, but no, I want to be a coach. And I always talk about it, and we laughed about it when I came out and said, I believe I'm the best coach in the Premier League. That was me having to think I am, because I was going to Chelsea. I want to still improve and be an even better coach now than what I was 10 years ago, 15 years ago.
I mean, you took a lot of stick for that. There was a lot of ridicule with that, John. But am I right in thinking the actual proper context of what you were meaning was that when you're on the coaching field dealing with top players, you have to develop a persona?
Absolutely.
So
absolutely,
you, not for a second, but you claiming you were the best.
I was a million miles away from that.
But I suppose if you're dealing with elite people, you can't afford to be a shrinking violet.
No, because they suss you out straight away.
Yeah.
For example, I'll use Alan Shearer, who's one of the strongest characters in the world. Right? He is a strong character. And if you ain't got his respect, your history.
Yeah.
And that goes with any player, Andy Robertson, Scott McTominay, whoever it is.
Yeah.
You need the respect. So you have to have that belief in yourself. I was, at that time when I got ridiculed for it, I was having to say, look, these players here are having a tough time. But we're going to Chelsea and they've got to think they're as good as Juan Mata and players who they're playing against.
Obviously, first and foremost, you have to be genuine, you have to be authentic, but you also have to carry yourself a certain way. But that would, you know, when you're then going on a training ground with the elite, the best of the best, you have to convince them.
Yeah. You have to. You have to have a presence about you. And I learned that from Sir Bobby Robson.
Have something about yourself, yeah.
Sir Bobby Robson had the biggest presence. When he walked into a room, everybody stood up and looked at him. When he walked into a lift, everybody shut up in the lift and listened to him. When he walked onto the training ground, everybody was in awe of him because of his presence. And that was something that stayed with me. You've got to have the confidence in your own ability when you go in there, especially with elite players. Because if not, they'll tear you apart.
I often think that, John, if I'm watching managers being interviewed or indeed I'm at a game and I see a manager that I don't particularly know, sometimes I wonder how he can carry a dressing room. Because to my mind, I'll look at his personality and I'm thinking, I'm not seeing a personality there that could hold a dressing room. Sometimes do you have to be something that you're not?
But sometimes he might get people who are good at holding the dressing room
to do it for him.
Correct. So you appoint the people around you. I mean, where you have a weakness, you bring somebody in who's strong at that situation and let them get on with it.
Yeah, but see if your natural trait is to be quiet, you can't.
Which is not
quiet.
mine.
No,
for
and
sure.
That's good. That's good.
Yeah.
But it's also good if you're quiet as well. But particularly in a football environment, you can't really be quiet, can you?
Well,
you need to express yourself.
I think it's changing. I think football's changing slightly, and there's more. The analytical side of it's coming into it more. than the presence of a dominant coach on the field.
But you need to be able to engage with people, don't you?
Oh, absolutely.
And particularly if you're talking a dressing room of all manner of personalities.
Yeah, because you have to present. You have to present to them, because, especially in international football, because the amount of time you can get on the grass with them is limited.
Yeah.
So you have to communicate. You have to be able to present to them, but you have to get your point across, and that's the important thing. Get your point across. Don't confuse people. Keep it simple. Let's not forget. We talk about this. International footballers are on loan. So what Andy Robertson gets at Liverpool and Scott McTominay now at Napoli gets might be totally different to what you're trying to say to them. So you have to give them the information, and it has to be clear and it has to be precise, but it has to be simple.
The ultimate for the current squad, we've had 2 Euro finals, which were fantastic. Ultimately disappointing, you'll accept that. The ultimate's a World Cup finals. Is there a World Cup qualification in this squad, John?
I think there is, for sure. I see the progress. What you need is, and I don't care who you are, you need a little bit of luck with injuries. You need to make sure, we need to make sure we have our best players available for us going into a tournament. You know, and I looked at the last camp. We had 19 players, so the 3, the Ferguson, Patterson and Hickey, who were long-term injuries. We had 16 players not with us. Callum McGregor retired, so 15 players not available that were in Germany with us in the last camp. Now, that's not what you call good luck.
No.
You need a little bit of rub to make sure your best players are available, and your best players need to turn up in a tournament, that's for sure, to get you into a tournament. And so far, these guys, the majority of the time, have done that.
Yeah. I mean, we're obviously, as we talk, we've got games coming up against Croatia and Poland, and I take it both yourself and Steve, the backroom staff, you're desperate to see what we saw against Portugal. Build on that.
Yeah, we're desperate for the players. The players deserve a victory. The players deserve the effort they've put in, the way they've tried to take on the information, the way they've played. They deserve something to go their way, and they deserve a win. And there's no reason why we can't do that. When you look at the performance against Croatia, the performance against Poland, where we conceded 2 goals from penalties, you know, we should be sitting here, I'm saying, we should be sitting here with 6 points. We should have 3 points against Poland. We should have got a point in Croatia. We should have got a point against Portugal in Portugal, and a point that we did get against Portugal at home. So we should be sitting here with 6 points, yet we've got 1 point. But the encouraging thing for me is the performances. And we will be better, and I keep talking about we will be better. Playing against these teams, I was speaking to Michael O'Neill yesterday about the fact that we're in pot A, pot 1, and England are in pot B. And that's the thing I actually use against, and we're playing against the top sides. So surely, and we're competing against them. It's not like we're getting thumped. We're competing against the sides now, and that's encouraging.
So, John, could being a manager in Scottish football be your cup of tea in the future? Apologies for that.
That is dreadful, by the way.
That was dreadful, wasn't it, John?
Good timing, though.
Well,
good timing, yeah.
It's not quite Ant and Deck, John, is it?
No, you haven't got his accent. No, listen, it's something I've certainly thought about, and it's probably something I want to do, you know. I know enough about Scottish football now. Obviously, been with the national team for 4 years, so I've been to many games up there. I know what it takes. I know what it takes, because you get people going up there and they don't actually quite understand how Scottish football is. It's very competitive, and the standard's better than what people think. So it's not easy. And we've seen a lot of people go up there with no experience and found it difficult. So I think the fact that I've been with the national team for 4 years, I've been to all the stadiums. I understand how you have to set a team up to compete, because you have to compete. That's the first thing in Scotland. And what it's like when you come up against the Old Firm, for example, you know, going to Ibrox, going to Celtic, how difficult it is in that environment. And if you're not used to that environment and the experience of it, it can backfire on you.
Have you, over the last 4 years working with Steve, with Scotland, have you relished the opportunity to get to know our clubs better, the managers and the coaches there better? Have you enjoyed that?
It's not just the managers and the coaches, it's the people behind the scenes as well, because obviously you get there early, you go into the boardrooms, you have a conversation with them, so you actually get a feel of what they're thinking and how they want to take the club forward. So you get a chance to meet these people, and to be honest, the people in Scotland don't really know me. They don't know my personality. They only see me in the technical area. I think I'm a lot mellower than I used to be, for sure. I used to be quite competitive. I'm still competitive.
Firebrand, were you?
I used to be a fireball, let me tell you. I used to. I was quite lively, but that was part of the role, was to upset the opposition's dugout, to distract them from the game. But I don't do that, and especially at Hampden, because you're a million miles away from the technical area. But certainly I'm a lot mellower than I used to be, and it's good for people to get to know me, because again, people think I have a contract with Scotland and I don't have a contract. So there's an opportunity, if something comes up for me, where clubs don't have to pay any compensation. If it's right, it's a right fit for them and it's a right fit for me. It's certainly something that I'm interested in. And I'm not going to go into the situation with the contract, because that's gone now. I'm not interested in that.
You've obviously you've developed an even greater appreciation of Scottish football, John. Now, is it true that when Ange Postecoglou was at Celtic, you get the opportunity actually to go to Lennoxtown training base?
It was an amazing experience, because I think it was at the time when we had David Turnbull. There was quite a few players. Tony Ralston were not playing, weren't getting a game with Celtic, and also they'd been in our squads, but they'd been left out of our squad. So I thought it was important for me to have contact with the players. So I arranged to go in there. Obviously, Taylor was there, Callum McGregor was there, Greg Taylor, sorry. And so there was players who were in the squad. James Forrest. So,
yeah.
So it was good to actually go and see the guys who weren't involved, you know, and just touch base with them and just reassure them that they still had an opportunity with the national team. But the way Ange sort of took me in, it was amazing. I spent about 45 minutes chatting with him before training. And I know what it's like before training, you're really busy. But he actually gave me so much time. And it was good, because we were talking about, because I've experienced working abroad in MLS and in Cyprus, and because he's worked abroad and he's working abroad, we actually had a lot of conversations about how we dealt with the culture, the fan situation, how we handled the staff. Did he bring staff with him? So it was questions that he probably doesn't get asked on a regular basis when people go there to visit him.
Just a pot of tea and a great football chat.
Absolutely.
Fantastic.
And it was amazing. Then we watched a bit of training, and then he said, after training, come and see me before you go. So we finished training, I go to see him, and we go in, and he's doing a post-match presentation. I think it was after the Hearts game.
Whole squad's there.
Whole squad's there, and all the guys were coming to the back of the room, shaking my hand. The Japanese, so respectful, shaking everybody. It was amazing. I just sat there, and it was like how somebody can be invited from the outside into that inner sanctum, and he shared his views and his approach. And that's, again, another way of continued learning. And I thought that was important. But it was a great experience. I'm going to do it again. I'm going to get in touch with a number of clubs and just go and visit them and just spend a bit of time. But I think you need that personal touch, especially after this camp, because we go a long time before we play again and see these guys again. So, for example, I'm looking forward to going down to Middlesbrough to see Michael Carrick and Jonathan Woodgate, to see Ben Doak and what's centre forward? What's his name? I forgot. Tommy, who almost got
keep you right, John.
Who almost got a hat-trick. I've got a million names. I'm starting to sound a little bit like Bobby Robson. You're forgetting people's names. But go and see Tommy, who almost got a hat-trick at the weekend. He missed the penalty and scored 2. So I'm looking forward to going down there and seeing them guys and being around the training ground and touching base with them.
People, I think, could easily overlook the fact, John, that you've worked abroad. I mean, you know, Toronto, Nicosia. I mean, Toronto must have been a fantastic experience. And there's a certain Scottish football legend that was there as well, John.
And what a guy. Listen,
Boris Johnson.
This guy is at the top of the list when it comes to personalities, as you well know. But not just that. He was a great football person. He was great for me, because when you go into he was the head coach and he wanted me to go as his assistant. And I said, I'm not coming all the way across there to be an assistant.
Toronto FC and MLS, of course.
Of course.
Yeah.
Did I not mention that?
Yeah.
I'm pleased you did. So I go across there as the head coach, and he moves up to become the general manager. And from day one, we got on. You know, like, he's such a football person. He's good socially, mate, I have to say.
Is he?
He's very
surprised
good.
me, John.
He's very good, but you know what a football person. And when you go into a new environment, which is why I like the challenge of going to MLS, because the rules and regulations are totally different to anybody else. You've got to deal with a draft, allocation money, how you deal with trades, how you trade players. You're not trading just one-on-one. You could trade through 3 different clubs to get the player that you want. It's a minefield. It is, and it's amazing. But Mo knew the ins and outs of everything, which helped me. But it was good because I knew none of the players. So you have to recharge your batteries again and get to know all the players, the different teams, the style of play. So it was like a new lease of life for me.
He was your general manager?
Yeah, he was
director of soccer?
Yeah, that's what he was. And he was so supportive. Yeah, and he was so supportive because you know what it's like when you have a relationship like that. He wouldn't sign a player without me saying yes. Because he knew I was the coach. He knew I had a system that we wanted to play, and he would make sure that player fitted into the system. When we actually brought over, Lauren Robert came in, Rowan Ricketts, who had played in the Premier League for Tottenham. Obviously, I had Lauren Robert, Oliver Tibley, who I think played at Celtic.
He did.
In some spell.
Yeah, he did.
We had Oliver Tibley. We had Carl Robinson, who played at Sunderland. We had centre forward Danny Dicchio, played at Sunderland.
Yeah.
So we had quite a few players who had played in England. And obviously through Mo, that connection of the...
So did you see a kind of serious football side to Mo? I mean, obviously people have their perceptions of Mo, as you'll understand, you know, larger than life and the social side of it. But is there a serious football man in there?
Absolutely, and his knowledge of the game was excellent.
Yeah.
Up there with the best.
Yeah.
Up there with the best because, listen, he'd been a top player himself.
Yeah.
Okay. He'd experienced MLS, I think he was at Kansas City as a player. But when we were in that football environment, it was 100% total football. And even when we left each other, he was still on the football, because you had to be as a general manager in MLS. It never stops. I
mean, you're talking 15, 16 years ago. Do you still keep in touch?
Yeah, we have the odd conversation. We don't have as many as we used to, because I think he was working as an agent, but I think his boys were growing up and he was involved with the football team with them. But I was planning on going to Toronto for my 60th birthday in the summer, and I was going to ask him if he wanted to pop up and come and see us. But no, he's a serious football person, and like I say, we had a really strong relationship.
To be fair, Mo could organise a proper party for your 60th, couldn't he? That
yes,
would be a party, wouldn't it?
Yes, he could. In fairness, when I first got there, I was staying in a hotel in the city centre, and I couldn't wait for the missus to get out and move out of the city. For both our benefits.
Toronto clearly was, you know, hugely satisfying for you, but you also work in Cyprus, Ammonia, Nicosia. I mean, I've been there. Obviously, I was there when Neil Lennon became manager. The fans are crazy, aren't they?
Yeah, they're crazy, passionate. They love the football club. The fans are the football club because they saved the football club many years ago. They were really, really struggling. So what they decided to do, they went around the island, basically with a begging bowl. So if you had €5, you had €10, you had 100,000, it went into the pot and it saved the football club. So the fans were the lifeblood of the football club. And they're probably the biggest supported team on the island. And just recently they've had the most success. They probably were the most successful team, but they had some hard times with financial problems. But now they've just, they've had a good run. They've won the championship recently, and they had a good run when Lenny was there, which was great, watching the game against Man United. And obviously they were up at Hearts the other week there playing against Hearts in the Europa League conference. So, it's good. I keep an eye on it. It was a great experience, and I lived just outside of Nicosia. Because you couldn't live in the city because all the fans were Ammonia fans, and you couldn't go anywhere. Even the coffee shops, when you went in for a coffee, it was incredible.
I mean, but if there's one club that really is associated with you, John, it's Newcastle United. Is it possible for you to tell me what that club means to you as a born and bred Geordie?
It's very, very difficult to put it into words, and we could probably spend hours and hours and hours talking about it. But basically, I was born within 2 miles of the stadium. I grew up with a black and white shirt on. Although I did like Wolves, I have to be honest. Wolves were like everybody had a second team, Wolverhampton Wanderers, only because my auntie bought me the strip. So everybody had a second team to make it competitive when we were playing. but it means everything to me. And the fact that I started my career there as a young schoolboy at 14, signed my first professional contract when I was 17, and I was going in the right direction.
You were an apprentice with Paul Gascoigne, is that
correct? Gazza was an apprentice with his. I've got so many good things to say about him, and he's a great guy. And I'm laughing because me and another guy, Paul Ferris, who's done really well with it. He's got 3 or 4 books out there. Boy in the Shed. If anybody,
former physio,
yeah. Almost became a qualified barrister, but left when Alan Shearer was getting the Newcastle job, as I left Toronto to come back to be part of Alan's staff, and then Alan didn't get the job. So it was a bit of a bombshell. But yeah, me and him had a flat together, and Gazza used to spend some nights at our flat, and the rest is history.
I can imagine. I can imagine. What happened in that flat? Stayed in that flat?
Yeah, but it was good fun. We were young lads, and
But in terms of ability, even back then, John, I mean, honestly, could you see him becoming what he did?
As a
world superstar.
As a 14-year-old, he was a little chubby lad, but he had amazing ability.
Yeah,
amazing ability, and played for Red Youth Boys Club. And when he came in at 16, he still had the chubby cheeks. And he was quite quiet. He was actually quite quiet, but he had ability. He couldn't get around the pitch. And then all of a sudden, we were working one day in the indoor area, and all of a sudden he started leaving one on the young schoolboys. It was summer holidays. So the younger players were there, 15s, 14s, 15s, 16s. And one day I grabbed him and I said, "What are you doing?" I went, "These are young kids, you've got to respect that. Don't start kicking. If you're going to kick anybody, kick me." So we carried on, and then I just smashed him. And he looked at me, and I seen something in his eyes change, as if to say, "You know what? I'm going to show you." And then all of a sudden, he just developed, and his personality changed a little bit, because he thought, "You know what? I can be a professional footballer." I think he always believed, but there was a point, there was a switch went off, and all of a sudden, he just started like running the show, but in a good way, not that arrogance and not kicking people. So, I have a lot of time for him. I have a lot of respect for him, and it's a shame what's happened to him. I tried to help him. I think a lot of people have tried to help him, and I'll always be there for him if he needs me. But what a talent, an amazing talent, and he had a great time when he came up the road, joined Rangers.
I think your association with Newcastle, John, I mean, you've been involved with some of the greatest names in the club's history. Kevin Keegan brought you to the club as a coach, and I think you regard that as one of the most generous or one of the kindest gestures. But Bobby Robson, Alan Shearer, Kenny Dalglish.
It's amazing it's amazing when you think about it, and you go back to Kevin Keegan. Right at the early stages, I was a young player with Kevin, and I used to go back in the afternoon. He was so dedicated, and he used to get me with the left foot, just driving balls, control, turn, hit, control, turn, hit. And I never seen him again. I never seen Kevin. Kevin disappeared. And then in 91, he come back as manager. And I got a phone call saying, "Will you come in and be my centre of excellence director?" It was amazing.
Incredible.
And he said, "I never forgot what you did for me. Coming back and working, because I loved it." It was Kevin Keegan. He was a superstar with the Patrick boots on him. It was amazing. He even gave me a pair of Patrick boots, but I wasn't as good as him. So, but it was amazing, and that was the start of it. When you look at it, was Kevin, and then Kenny came, and they all had different personalities, and then Kenny came, and Kenny was like, because I was working in the youth department, he knew every young player. He knew the family's mum and dad's name. He knew the sisters and brothers. It was amazing. Kenny was amazing. The attention to detail and you think it's a small thing, but you think of how successful he was when he was at Blackburn, and he got Damon Duff and people like that over from Ireland because of his personality, and he got to know everybody. And then obviously Kenny left, and Ruud Gullit came in, and I didn't know Ruud, and we've talked about how I met Steve. So working with Ruud was an experience, because he was an excellent coach, but not great with people. And he had that big fallout with Alan Shearer, which nearly cost me my friendship with Alan at the time. And then Ruud leaves, and Bobby comes in, and Bobby's like a breath of fresh air. You talk about influences. I mean, you learn so much every single day, not just about football, just about life and how you handle yourself and how you deal with people. Bobby was unbelievable. He could fall out with somebody on a Saturday, get them in the office on a Monday, and like make that person feel the best person in the world and walk out the door. He did it with Craig Bellamy once. We played Leeds, and him and Craig had a big fight at half-time, at full-time. We get in on a Monday morning. He gets me to go and get Craig. We come in the office, sit him down. I think he's going to give him, tell him off. All of a sudden, he's just telling him how great he is now. And Craig was 6 foot by the time he walked out the door. And he had this knack and the habit of doing that, So I think I've been very, very fortunate. I mean, you look at, after that, then I had Kevin Blackwell, who was great for me at Leeds. And I'll never forget, what he did for me, because I wasn't quite sure where I was going, because Greame Souness had come in at Newcastle and we didn't see eye to eye. And all he had to do is embrace me. But he didn't. He brought his friend. He actually said to me, I took over the game against Blackburn. We beat them 3-0. He couldn't get involved because he was an ex-Blackburn manager. On the Sunday, we're sitting in the dining room, and I'm sitting there with the staff, and he walked in with all his staff, Dean Saunders, Alan Murray, Phil Borsma, and he's introducing them all to the players who were sitting in the dining room, and I'm sitting on the table with my staff. This is the new assistant manager. This is the new first team coach. Without a conversation with me.
So this was the first you learned of it?
That's the next day after we beat Blackburn 3-0.
Yep.
So I knew he was in because we had the international break beforehand.
So you still waiting to learn of your own fate?
Correct.
But that's how you discovered it?
That's how
in full view of...
When I seen them walk through the door. So I just sat there and so they come and sat on the table with us. And we were just sitting having a conversation, and then I think it was Dean Saunders went, remember, Gaffer, when you stuck that flag on the halfway line at Galatasaray? And I just looked, and like, because I am a straight talker and I don't mess about, I looked at Graeme, and Graeme looked at me, and he realised I wasn't very happy. So he said, I think we need to have a chat. I went, we do, let's go. So we went in his room, and he said, you know how football is, John, da-da-da-da. He said, I'm bringing my mates in. I went, you bring your mates in? Okay, that's fine. I'm okay with that. That's what you want to do? He said, but Freddie Shepherd wants you to be the academy director. I said, well, just tell Freddie I'm going to have a little break, a little holiday, and I'll think about it. So anyway, I then just walked out, went to my office, packed my bags, out I went. Went off on holiday. Freddie said, we want you to do this. And because I had the pro license, and we were in Europe, I had the pro license, nobody else had the pro license. No, I've had it 23, 24 years. It's only been going 24 years, and I've had it as long as that. And I was like, okay, but I didn't realise at the time. So they kept me with the same contract that I had as assistant manager, went down the academy, got the end of the season, didn't need me, and then said, we're going to put you down on academy manager's salary. And I said, no. So I went to a tribunal, I won the tribunal, left, went to Leeds. So Kevin picked me up. So I was really fortunate to get a chance to work with Kevin. Graeme, all he had to do was embrace me, and there's so much more that I would like to go and do, but I'm not going to.
Has anything changed in your relationship since then, John?
With him?
Yeah.
No, if I seen him in a room, I would have to say I would not want to speak to him, and I wouldn't shake his hand. That's how strongly I feel about it. And that's common knowledge to people who know me and know him, which is sad, really, because he was a legend of a footballer, but I don't think his personal skills were great.
You had 2 caretaker spells and an interim period in charge of Newcastle United, and there was one particular season, John, where there was a serious relegation fight. You're in charge. We've already discussed you're a Geordie, what that club means to you. The pressure for you at that time must have been almost suffocating. How was that for you?
It was a very difficult time, because I think I was averaging about 3 to 4 hours sleep a night, and eventually that catches up with you. But it wasn't because of the lack of effort. I mean, we had some real close games against Liverpool, against Arsenal, losing 2-0, losing 2-1. But the biggest problem was in my first game, we lose Stephen Taylor with a snapped Achilles tendon. So he gets carried off on a stretcher in the first game.
Your key defender.
Your key centre half. I lose Tim Krul with a dislocated shoulder. Right, now these aren't muscle injuries, by the way. So already you've got Tim Krul and you've got Stephen Taylor down your spine. And then Czech Tiote and Papa Cisse, so your central midfield player and your centre forward, go off in January to the African Cup of Nations. When they come back, they both come back injured, and they both need knee operations. So right down that spine, I've lost our main players. Papa Cisse, a goal scorer. Czech Toyota,
Midfielder, centre midfielder.
Our driver, yeah.
Yep.
Stephen Taylor, our centre half, and our goalkeeper. But on top of that, we lose Jonas Gutierrez with testicular cancer. We lose Ryan Taylor with a snapped cruciate ligament. We lose Paul Dummett with a knee injury. We lose David Santon with a knee injury. Not like pulled muscles. It's.
And there was a consecutive run of defeats. I mean, is it fair to say, John, you were haunted by the results even more because of your affiliation with the club? And
very, very much so. But on a lighter note, I remember we were going into that last game of the season against West Ham, where we needed to win to stay in the Premier League. And I remember driving into the training ground, and you get paranoid when you're driving the car because everybody, once they spot you, they want to like say something or do something. Or anyway, I'm sitting at the traffic lights and I can feel this guy sitting in a van, and I can feel his eyes piercing through the window. And I thought, I've got to look. So I actually turned, and as I turned like that, he just looked at me. He had a big smile on his face, and he just went. and I just started laughing. I just thought, you know what? It was brilliant.
Yeah.
Because like I was proper paranoid in the end. I would go into the garage and they would want to talk about the team. I'd go into a restaurant. I couldn't go anywhere. And I didn't want to go anywhere, to be honest, because it was 24/7. Like I say, by the time I got to the end of it, I mean, the day, obviously we won the game 2-0, stayed in the Premier League. I went straight home and I slept. I got in about 7 o'clock. I slept right the way through to the next day, to Monday, and it was Monday afternoon before I woke up, because it was such a relief in the pressures. Because we have a joke here in the golf club, because Alan obviously
I know what's coming here.
Alan took the team down and I kept them up. So one of the guys has a song and he sings a song and it winds Alan up a little bit. And I know Alan only had 8 games and what have you, but it was difficult for him as well.
But it's great banter, John.
Oh, it's great banter, and I love it. I love it because that'll live with me. I kept them up and he took them down, because he did have a go at me, and he had a go at me in one of his articles, which was, he called me something like one of the top Liverpool managers. Who is he? I can't remember. Anyway, there's a story there. I'll get the story and I'll let you know about it. But he was.
It's a great comeback.
We have a great bit of banter about it.
Yeah,
and it's quite funny. He takes it. He has to.
John, it's been fantastic, and thanks very much for playing host to us at this wonderful Close House Golf Club. Thank you, John.
Thanks.